right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Shannon Toohey. I am the program director at UC Irvine. And we are very excited today. I just left this up here. We have two more events after today. We're gonna have an event on the diversity at UCI as well as our fellowships, which do impact the residency to a point because it affects the resources you have. But today we're gonna talk about why UCI. And we are very fortunate to have a bunch of our alumni and residents here. And so they are kind of the bigger show than me. So we've got Sam Asaf, who is the class of 2017, V. Han, who is the class of 2018, Sari Laham, class of 2019. I believe we have Lauren, but I haven't seen her yet. Lauren Savanovich, she is class of 2019 as well. Matt Abrashamian may be joining us later. He was just recently graduated in class of 2020. And then for our residents, we've got Ryan Gibney and Danny Matonis, who are both third years, and then Yana Florian, who's a second year, and Kwa Nguyen, who's a first year. So they are the bigger thing today. So I will go ahead and let them get started. They can talk about anything. You guys can talk about anything you want. Here's just a couple of questions you may want to address. Just why did you choose UCI, or did you? What did you or didn't like about your training at UCI? Any issues or regrets about training at UCI? And do you think you were well prepared for job hunting and for actually working the job that you have? So Sam, would you like to go first since you're kind of top of the list? You're the oldest.
I just realized I'm the oldest on this list. That's kind of sad. I'm only 3 years out, I swear. Okay, so I'm starting then. So I'm Sam Asaf. Like Shannon was saying, I finished in 2017. I'm from LA originally, so I moved back up to LA. I've been working at Kaiser Permanente in Panorama City, which is in the Valley, for the past 3 years. UCI was awesome, and I think our training is so much better than some other programs. And I think that's the main thing everyone's going to say is, the training is excellent. And that's really the most important thing when you're looking for a residency program. Just last night, I was on shift last night, and one of my colleagues decided to intubate a crashing asthmatic, which you almost never want to do. The intubation went horribly, and I was just kind of like standing there, just in case. And he called me in. He's like, "Sam, can you take over?" I'm like, "Okay, I guess." And got the tube, no problem. And he went, he's only a few years out, just like I am. He went to a great program. But I think we just get a ton of hands-on experience at UCI, and you see a little bit of everything. So you end up being super well prepared, which again is the most important thing. I think it's really nice to go to a smaller program. I mean, I went to USC for med school, and I was told over and over again, you have to go to like a big county program, otherwise you're not going to get good training. And that's totally not true. I think there's a lot to be said to go to a smaller program where you get a little bit more attention from the attendings. We had a super close-knit residency class, which is really important because residency is stressful. So I love that about UCI. Then obviously you have the location, which is excellent. You can live by the beach. And what else I want to say? And the attendings are just excellent. They love teaching, super involved, super willing to change things that aren't working for the residency. So that's pretty much my little spiel. I don't want to talk too much. I want to see what else is going on, and then we can answer some questions.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sam. Let's see. V? I saw him on. Are you there, V?
Here. He's here somewhere. I saw him.
There you go. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
There you go. Yeah. What's up, guys? So my name is V. Han. I graduated in 2018. So I was the class before Sammer. And one of the biggest reasons why I chose UCI it was actually quite simple. I think during my interview day, I had like the best good butterfly vibes when I spoke to everyone that was there. I think I'll piggyback on what Sammer said, which is when I went to this program, I really felt like it truly was a family. I know you guys will hear that a lot at every program you interview at. But I think the benefits to our program is, we are on the smaller side, but we work really hard. We get trained to be really fast ER physicians here. I felt like when I graduated from this program, I had no problems transitioning over to a community job. I currently work at Kaiser Downey at their ER department. And I feel like when we get out there, we're one of the fastest physicians there. And, we're very comfortable with any pathology that walks through the door. And I feel like our training is pretty good in that regard. And the other thing that I wanted to highlight about our program is I felt like the leadership at our program was just like my extended family. Like Shannon was like my big sister. Lisa was like my big sister. Embo was like my big sister. I just felt like there was never a barrier to talk to them about, problems that I might be having or kind of just, issues with the program, which there weren't many, but they were just very, willing to change things that, may or may not be working. And I thought that was great. I don't have any regrets going to UCI. I thought it was an awesome program, and I really did feel like all the classes were truly great friends and family. I mean, how many do we have now, Shannon? I think our class had 8, right? You guys have 9 now?
We're 9 now, so we're 27.
Yeah, so I feel like with programs that are on the bigger size, you kind of get lost in the shuffle, but I really felt like we all had each other's back, and it was fun. So I'll let other people continue on and see what they say, but yeah, I felt like Sammer covered a decent amount of stuff that I agree with.
Awesome. Thanks, V.
Yeah.
Sari, I know you were on. I saw you a minute ago. You want to chat next?
Yeah. Hey, guys. My name is Sari. Like Shannon said, I was class of 2019. The reason I chose UCI for residency, I actually went there for medical school, and just on my rotation, I fell in love with the department there, and everybody was super supportive. Most importantly for me, I wanted a place where I felt like I could be myself and relaxed when I wanted to learn. And so everybody from residents to attendings to nursing staff were super friendly, joking with everybody. I felt like it wasn't ever a huge amount of like it was professional, obviously, at all times, but never kind of overly so and kind of intimidating in that sense. Whereas sometimes, it can be that way for certain people. So I just learned better in that environment where everyone just kind of gets along and is super cordial with each other. What did I like about my training at UCI? I think that the number one thing is honestly speed. Whether you're working at an academic site or you're like the majority of people who go into the community, speed is honestly one of the most important things by far. Obviously, you want to be thorough and do your job well, but you need to be fast at what you do. So that's the most important thing potentially in the emergency department, depending on where you work, especially. And so the speed at UCI is extremely, extremely fast. And the pace is sometimes overwhelming, but in a sense, it's just the best place to train because when you get out, everything else seems slow. I went to a fellowship after residency at Jefferson in Philadelphia, and the pace there, they actually had Hahnemann Hospital closed, if you guys have heard of that, and their hospital volume went up 40% the first week I arrived. And I thought it was totally fine. It was very manageable, no problem at all, just because I had trained at UCI and I felt like that was kind of like a normal day. No real issues or regrets about training at UCI. I thought it was super fair. We got along pretty well with other off-service residents. We got first dibs at procedures for pretty much everything. Got over 100 intubations in the 3 years. I think you only need 30 or 35 to graduate. So, that was pretty much the most important thing for me. And then as far as well prepared to find a job, absolutely. I was kind of a princess when it came to finding a job. I wanted a job in not only Southern California, but in San Diego. And I actually got numerous job offers in San Diego, which is amazing. And not anything about me specifically, but I think that the training had helped a lot. And I think my mentors had helped a lot with getting a job. And so I'm super thankful for UCI and I'm very happy I went there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sari. Have you done your first shift down there yet?
No, I'm still on vacation, so I'm a little sunburned from just being at the beach every day.
Even better. Let's see. I know Lauren was trying to get connected. Lauren, were you able to get on yet?
Yeah, are you able to see me and hear me?
Yes. Hello. How are you?
Okay, perfect. Good. Doing well. Okay, so we're going through the questions. Is that the plan?
Anything you want to talk about? I just kind of gave questions to guide you guys in case you didn't know what you wanted to say. So you can say anything you want.
Perfect. Yeah, so I graduated about a year ago, so I've been out for 1 year. UCI was my first choice, so I was definitely very excited to have the opportunity to stay. I was at UCI for 7 years, so I did my medical school there 4 years and then residency for 3 years. So that really, I thought going into residency, I had a really good picture and idea of what I was getting myself into. And that's why it was my first choice, because I think it was a great fit for me. The first thing that drew me to UCI was definitely the people. I think the leadership was very, very dedicated to education, and also just cultivating your interests or whatever it is that you wanted to do in EM after residency. In addition to the people, the leadership, I think the residents themselves was what attracted me. They all seemed like a very close-knit family, and our class, which Sari was in my class, became extremely close over the 3 years. We're still in contact probably weekly, if not sometimes daily. So I think that culture between the leadership and the residents that were already there is what drew me to UCI, and is ultimately what made the experience such a good one. A couple things I got to hear what Sari said and hear what the others have said so far, but I ended up working in a community practice, just like Sari said, extremely busy. I'm a trauma center, stroke center, semi-receiving, and the speed was so helpful. There's plenty of patients to see at UCI, sometimes too many. There's a lot of trauma, which you can get tired of in residency, but I actually think it really helped me, because now I'm at a level 2 trauma center where it's just me and one trauma surgeon, and we're running the show. And sometimes the trauma team, that even the one trauma surgeon can be hands off. So sometimes it's just me. So I did feel pretty prepared for that. I think the other part of that, if you think about academics, there's a lot of great mentorship. If you think about community, I thought UCI did a really good job of letting us rotate several places. So the rotation at Long Beach Memorial and Mission, not only did you get to network with people in the community, you really saw what it was like to practice community medicine, which might draw you to it or make you want to stay in academics. But I think the exposure there to kind of all facets of emergency medicine was really important for me, and I'm really grateful for that. No real issues or regrets. Definitely felt prepared this last year. I mean, it's a huge learning curve being a new attending, but I think UCI hit all the boxes to prepare me for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Yeah.
I think Matt Abershami was not able to make it, unless I'm wrong. Matt, are you there? I didn't want to ignore him if he is. All right, very quickly, residents. So these ones are still in training, and then we'll do Q&A with everyone. So Ryan Gibney, do you want to talk about why you chose UCI and how your training is going?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. So for me, UCI was my first choice. I'm currently on my 11th year at UCI, undergrad, med school, research, and now residency. So I had a really good perspective firsthand of what the program was like. Shannon, if you don't mind, go into the question slide prompt so I can kind of walk through it. That'd be awesome. So yeah, it was my first choice. My wife and daughter and I have been in Southern California for quite some time. So location was a big part of it. We wanted to stay close to our families in Southern California. So that really played a big factor, as many of you will find when you're selecting programs, that location is very important. But overall, the mentorship I got throughout med school with the emergency medicine department on faculty, my experience on the rotation, like Sari said, the nursing staff, the consultants, everyone at the hospital itself, it's a really welcoming, friendly environment. What I love about the training at this program is you get a huge breadth of experience from both community, academic, and some county kind of feel within the program. The volume prepares you to handle any number and any severity of pathology at any time. Oftentimes, you know, you're running around and you can't believe how much you did in one day successfully and safely. And, you know, it's really a testament to the kind of the program that we have, is that you come away feeling comfortable with anything you see. And I think that's one of the big strengths about UCI in particular. The other thing is, as many people have already said, that the mentorship you receive from faculty and the leadership within our program is second to none. There is a wide open door policy with any issues. They really empower us as residents to make the changes we feel are important within our education and guide the learning for future classes, which I think as a chief this year has been really awesome to kind of revamp some of the learning from journal club and academic conferences. As far as issues and regrets, I have none. I think I made the right choice. It was my number one choice, and it would be my number one choice over and over again. And I will let you know how the job search goes and what my plans are. I think I'm looking at fellowship and plus or minus community. It kind of depends on how I feel, but definitely leaning towards a fellowship. But anywhere I go, I know that I'm going to be well prepared for the journey ahead.
Awesome. Thank you, Gibney. And then we've got Danny, who is also a third year and a chief right now.
Hi, everybody. I'm Danny Matonis. One of the current third years. So my story, I guess, is a little different. Awkwardly, I didn't necessarily choose UCI. I went to Boston University, so it's a four-year county type program. So I thought I wanted to go to a similar one, but on the West Coast. So UCI didn't quite hit some of those criteria for me when I made my original rank list. But I actually quickly volunteered to be a part of this meeting because I actually am like so excited to be at UCI. I didn't know a lot about it and it didn't make it very high in my rank list, but now that I'm here, I absolutely love it. And I've actually highly recommended it to incoming medical students, both our rotators and people from my medical school. The things I love about our program is number one, be a third year. I'm hoping to start moonlighting. I feel very, very ready to handle the things that'll be thrown at me this year. I've had exposure to like all the procedures we need, very comfortable handling traumas. We've had great exposure at community sites. I love UCI as our county type site. No issues or regrets about training here. One thing that does come up is we are a smaller program. So some people will say when it comes to hanging out with other residents, it can be a little trickier because usually if you're off, everyone else is working. But I think we found ways to make it work. You just make friends with the other classes. So I'm pretty good friends with a lot of people who've already graduated, see them around. Of course, the interns this year, they'll have to hang out with me. I don't know. So I feel like that was the one downside that sometimes come up when we talk about. But otherwise, in becoming an ER doc, I feel very ready. I haven't decided what I want to do, but if I ultimately decide fellowship, if I want to go into the community, I feel very well prepared to do any of those things. I think that's the end of my spiel.
Awesome. Thank you, Danny. I haven't seen Yana. She might not have gotten out of shift on time. But Kwa is here. So Kwa is one of our new interns. So he has a very fresh perspective. Kwa,
hey guys. Yeah, for sure. Hi guys, my name is Kwa. UCI was my number one choice. I was born here in Southern California in Orange County, and I moved to Ohio like at a really young age. So like my formal years, I was in Ohio for high school, in Ohio for undergrad, and I went to Northeast Ohio Medical University for med school. And so at that point, I felt like, you know, I'm ready to come back to California. Most of my top programs were in Southern California, and UCI was at the very top of the list. I remember when I was on the interview trail, what I was really looking for, and I felt like it was a superficial answer whenever they asked me, like, what are you looking for in a program? And I was like, of course, I'm looking for like an academic program, a place where they see like a diversity of like pathology and patient backgrounds. But really what I wanted to see was good culture. I feel like I'm one of those people that like, I'm really high energy. I love just interacting with people. And then along the interview trail, I interviewed at programs where I just felt like, you know, maybe I'm not a good click for this place, or the residents don't seem too happy. When I interviewed at UCI, I remember like the first day, everyone was sitting nervously around the table, and Dr. Tui just walks in, big bright smile on her face, like knew everybody's faces, shook everyone's hands, knew everyone's names right off the bat. It just felt like a program that you just knew the faculty cared for all the residents. Every single interview I went through with all the different faculty. And then when I went to the dinner, it just felt like all the residents were genuinely happy with the program. They had nothing but like great things to say. It just felt like a right fit for me. So far I've only done 3 shifts, so I don't really have any issues or regrets. Definitely the patient population, at least here compared to where I trained in Ohio, I feel like the patients here seem to be more medically complicated. They're not as straightforward as I was like used to. And that's been a challenge for me on these first 3 shifts, but I'm really excited to be learning how to manage these complicated patients. As for like the rest of the intern class, I feel like the intern class is just amazing this year. We make each other laugh until the point we're in tears. It's a fun class and it's a great place to be.
Awesome. Thank you, Kwa. So we'll move into the Q&A. I know some questions have already popped up in the chat and some of the people here are already answering them, but we'll do some of them verbally. I actually have one question that I probably should have put on there for the alumni. Does anyone regret not going to a 4-year program?
I'm glad I went to UCI. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, no one said anything about a 3-year program. We are still 3-year, right?
We are. I love to tease the president that we're not, but
yeah, I mean,
teasing them that we're 4 years, but it is 3 years. Nothing's changed.
It's so amazing.
I texted Tui the
life.
other day. Oh, I texted Tui the other day. I love you all, but I'm so glad I only have to do 1 more year.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
4-year programs really try to sell you on that extra year, but really you just end up doing not much electives and wasting a year of your life. It's so nice to be done in 3 years and feel well trained, well prepared. You don't miss out on anything.
Awesome. Lauren, were you going to say something?
Completely agree. So when I started my new job last year, Darren was a graduate in my class, both started at the same time, and we started with 6 new grads total. And both of us and the leadership at the time gave us plenty of compliments. And they actually had thought UCI was 4 years when they interviewed us for the job. And then they realized it was a 3-year program. And I think just in comparison to some of the other 4-year grads, they thought, as prepared or even more prepared. So I wouldn't worry about that from a 3 to 4 year standpoint.
Awesome. Sarah, any thoughts on that, having gone to fellowship?
I think he's back on the beach.
Sorry, you're muted.
He's getting more.
You would think the telemedicine graduate would know how to use telemedicine and Zoom, but apparently not. So yeah, so I was just saying that honestly, I would never have done a fellowship had I gone to a 4-year program. The only reason is obviously, in retrospect, things are very long, right? You guys did 4 hard years of medical school. You do hard years of residency. The hours are long. The hours are random. And so it's very hard to sign up for additional training at a discount. Whereas a ton of my friends were doing 4-year programs. And so knowing that I was going to graduate with a subspecialty behind my background, in addition to emergency medicine training, while my friends at many 4-year programs were essentially graduating with emergency medicine training, I felt like that was a huge advantage. And obviously a ton of jobs were very, very keen on me having fellowship training. And so I think that absolutely 0 regrets about doing a 3-year.
Awesome. It looks like there's some questions over here. Elisa, anything?
Yeah. So some questions from the chat. There was a question about where the residents go after graduating and the types of fellowships, or do they go directly into work? I think the majority of our residents tend to stay in the Southern California area. A lot of them tend to stay in the Orange County, San Diego, or LA County type area. We have had residents go to other areas. It just tends to be people like the area, and I think they tend to stay. There was also a question about fellowships. Each class is kind of different. We have some classes that are very fellowship oriented and 50% of the class goes to fellowships, and we have some classes where it's only 1 or 2 people. It kind of varies from class to class and really depends on what each of the individuals are interested in. There was a question about graded responsibility, and I touched on it briefly, but I think maybe some of our graduates or current residents could touch on that a little bit more. How did you guys feel about the graded responsibility, where R1s took whatever came in the door, R2s took ALS runs, R3s took the traumas?
So I really like the structure we have now. We recently adopted a new schedule format called the waterfall, where the first couple hours of your shift are spent in triage. So you see any patient that comes through the door, BLS or walk-in patient, and oftentimes those are our sickest patients that you end up picking up as an R1. It's nice to get used to the pace of seeing many patients very quickly and making your decisions. And then as you get more comfortable with that later on in R1 year and R2 years starting, you'll work those ALS shifts that kind of pop up randomly as they come through the back door. And, you know, those tend to be, you know, very varietal, sick patients from STEMIs and strokes to overdoses to minor traumas. So you kind of really can see in your first year, by the time you're done, just about everything. You also train your trauma ATLS. So you're taking what are called tier 3s or low level traumas, which are often, you know, your elderly ground level fall with blood thinners that often can end up being your sick patients. So by the time you're done being a first year, you kind of have an experience of everything that's going to come through our doorway. And then second and third year, second and third year, you come through and really hone those skills with your ALS patients the majority of your second year and the traumas in your third year. So I think that greater responsibilities are a really nice way to work up. And by the time you hit third year, you can do any shift and not bat an eye.
Any thoughts from anyone else?
I was going to add to agree with everything Gibney said, and I think that tiered system really prepares you for when you're done. And then I was going to add to the, like, what do grads do after? As Elisa was saying, they're very connected. UCI grads are very connected in the Southern California area. So if that's something on your mind that you do want to work here, pretty much when I graduated, there was a UCI grad most places, there was a connection or somebody knew somebody. And then any place that was hiring seemed like they'd interview me, they'd interview my classmates graduating with me. Really the limitation is if a group is full and not hiring. Otherwise I didn't feel for myself or other UCI graduates in my class that there was any limitation in the Southern California area to getting interviews and getting opportunities to stay here. One of the new grads I'm working with, he graduated a New York program, and he had the complete opposite story. He said he got lucky, he got one interview at the place where we're working, and otherwise really SoCal places weren't giving him interviews as much as it sounds like the UCI grads do. So definitely a bonus if you're wanting to work in this area. It's very, very well connected.
Looks like someone had a question about having a family during residency. So we've got actually a fairly varied group of people here. Lauren was married right before she started residency. Gibney, who's still in residency, has a wife, and what is Zoe, 10 now?
Zoe's 10, yeah.
Zoe's 10. Samer was single coming into residency, but got in a relationship and is now engaged. So anyone want to share their thoughts on family and dating in residency? Or we can start with family and then we can move to other things.
So, I mean, if you've gone through med school with a family, residencies 3 more years or 4 of much the same, the important thing, I think our residency program does a really good job is focusing on your wellness and work-life balance. So just making that time protected as part of your schedule has made it, very manageable. I have an amazing wife, and her father's a doctor, so she kind of understands the life within medicine a little bit. So she understands the demands of our job, but yet, she's always there to have something ready for us to do. She does an amazing job doing the bulk of child rearing in our home. But we have the little time we do have, you have a couple days a week that are protected, 2 golden weekends a month. So that time we just really focus on having planned out a couple months in advance. And overall, it's been kind of a breeze as far as managing back and forth. It's what you prioritize.
Awesome.
Lauren, anything you want to add about being married in residency? I know your husband was also very busy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a struggle. The time is limited, but you get through it. I think whatever situation you're in, if you're married, looking to be dating, I mean, just like Gibney was saying, you have to kind of prioritize your time, plan things in advance, and whatever your like social wants or needs are, that you can make them happen. The two golden weekends or two protected weekends a month, I think, is a really huge thing at UCI versus other schedules. It sounds like you guys are still doing that. And I think having talked to other residents, either other specialties at UCI or even other EM residents elsewhere, not a lot of places have that. So it does, I think, help for keeping your social life going.
And within my residency class, I think there's 4 of us that have kids. So I mean, it's a very family-friendly residency for sure. They're always included in like the resident events. We can always bring our family, and you know, my daughter's been over to Mike Burns' house swimming, so everybody gets to hang out. So
I see a question here about global health electives and projects. So all the UCs are having this issue where getting a global elective approved is actually rather difficult. You can do it, but every time I've handed the pile of paperwork to residents, they have declined. So what we've been doing is actually something Lauren did, is we moved her 4 weeks of vacation into a single month. We moved her elective weeks into those months, and she did education, I think, work during that time. And she ended up going, Lauren, where'd you go to in Africa?
I didn't end up going. Elena went. Elena went. Yeah. Yeah.
You go to Africa. I thought you went. What happened?
It was just like hard scheduling, but I did exactly what you said, though. I had the time all booked together and had done hours elsewhere and stuff. But Elena was the one who actually went and did the trek, right? And some like altitude medicine type stuff.
Yeah, she did Everest, but you were going to go do a clinic in Africa. It just didn't work.
Yes. Yeah. I was trying to. Yeah.
Gotcha. So there are opportunities. It's a 3-year program. Your elective is only going to be a month, so I admit it's limited, but they are there. I'm looking through the question. Any of the applicant students want to speak up? Any other questions that you guys want to ask the alumni or the residents? Some of the questions in the chat,
there were some questions about ways you guys think that students could get to know programs or to figure out if a program would be a good fit for them given COVID and that there aren't going to be a lot of in-person activities. So I don't know, you guys might have some additional thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've mostly been telling people you're just gonna have to network, talk to everyone you know, ask people that you know who went to that program, how their experience is, look at how the job market is for that program. I don't know if the graduates, the residents have any other ideas on the best ways to get to know a program when you can't go, because we're kind of in uncharted territory on that.
Yes, I have like just one little comment on that is one, I don't have a lot of advice. I have no idea. I didn't really know what I was doing when there were in-person interviews. But to know that you guys, that there are a lot of really good programs out there. So as long as you're putting yourselves out there and meeting people and doing your best to get to know programs, it might be a weird year with interviews and matching and stuff, but there are a lot of really good programs, and wherever you end up, if you're working hard and doing your best, like you guys are all be great talks. So I know it's not very useful, but hopefully if you can keep that in mind through this especially stressful year, you might be a little bit better off.
So I also sit on the board of RSA, and we're currently working on ways to help you guys out there that are going to be interviewing. If you go to the website, there's several forums they're doing with program directors on how to reach out to the programs effectively, what they're going to be doing. But just keep in tune with like EMRA and RSA and use that as a secondary resource of how maybe to get in touch with programs you may not have thought of. They may be highlighting other programs you may not know about. You know, best of luck. I know this is a very different time for all of us. And I know it's probably especially difficult on you guys, but, you know, pick a program that you know, you feel comfortable with everything they have represented about them. And if you can talk to somebody, I think Danny's right, reach out as much as possible and try and get the inside scoop. And I think all of us are pretty readily available as far as UCI is concerned.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah. On the interview trail, I don't know how they'll do like interview dinners this year. I remember when we just got the chance to sit down with the residents and just ask them honest questions. Some like the questions that really helped me figure things out was to just ask like, what are some things you'd like to see improved with this program? It's a great way to ask like in like a sly way, like what are some of the program's weaknesses? Figure out like what are some like residents unhappy with and what can be improved. I asked them like, what's the thing you guys love about this program? Or I'll ask like the program director, what's the one thing you're most proud of? And then usually whatever they're most proud of is pretty indicative of what they value in their residents.
Awesome. Thanks, Claw. There's a good question here for alumni, having already gone through residency or even current residents, what's something that you're glad you looked at or that you think is there something that you thought was considered too important by students when you were trying to pick your program, or is there something you think that students overlook when they're trying to pick their program that turns out to be really important?
I can probably speak to that. I remember I looked at things like volume as the most, or at least what I thought was very important. A hospital would say we see 200,000 patients a year. The problem with that number is it's completely useless, right? Because if I'm at a hospital with 50 or 60 residents, there's 10 to 20 PAs or NPs, you know, the doctor in triage discharges them before I even see them. And whether there's 200,000 or 100,000 is kind of useless for me. I don't know how many patients that I see personally, because that's how I'm actually going to be fast and a good physician. And so, you know, I said this earlier, speed is extremely important no matter what setting you go into. And, you know, it's kind of hard to ask in a sense how fast do your residents go, but you need to be fast if you want to get a good job. And more importantly than getting the good job is if you want to be good at your job. You don't want to be the resident who goes to work, or the attending who finishes, who goes to work extremely stressed out at work. I honestly almost never feel stressed now as an attending. I think partially because I was stressed all the time as an R2 and R3 with a ton of sick patients at once. And so the point is, when you go to a program that actually prepares you for speed, I think that is so crucial. And so that overall volume number that people like to spit out, honestly, is pretty useless to me.
So I remember when I was you guys going through this, I had this Excel sheet that was all weighted based on a whole bunch of different parameters, but some like location was really important to me. And something that often gets overlooked, and I was talking to Dr. Tui about this the other day, is insurance. Some programs offer health insurance, some don't. That comes in or out of your pay. For those of me who has a family, you know, my insurance was covered, my daughter's insurance covered, my wife's insurance covered. If I had 7 more kids, they would all be covered. And it's excellent insurance, which is amazing. You know, the pay versus the rent factor, like all that's kind of played in, but really look at, you know, what you need both from a training standpoint and outside of training. I think you really need to consider as well.
And for me, kind of like what I was saying before, I mean, I felt like there was a huge overemphasis on going to like a big old school county program like Cook or USC or King County, and going to a 4-year program. And I'm so glad I didn't, because I feel like, you know, I saved a lot of time and still got better training.
I agree with everything that was said. Another thing with the numbers game, and Jerry was alluding to, is that when you're at a smaller residency, you get more attention. I mean, program leadership calls you back, texts you back. You get to know your co-residents more. You see a similar set of faces on shift a couple times a week, so the camaraderie is really there. I think that gets kind of lost in the bigger programs, and something I didn't realize going into it, but was so important for me, just those relationships that are still lasting today. And that really made the 3 years, I think, go by faster because I enjoyed the people I worked with and I actually knew them well. So something to think about too.
Thank you. There's a question about procedures. It looks like V already answered it in the chat, that other than cripes, he's pretty much comfortable with anything. Have you guys run into any procedures that you've had to do since graduation that you weren't comfortable with?
No, I mean, like, I'll piggyback off of that. I mean, crikes is just a function of when you can't intubate and can't ventilate, right? But luckily at UCI, we're pretty good at intubations, right, Shannon? But as for procedures, yeah, as well as procedures, though, not really. I mean, what, 2 weeks ago, I've done 2 thoracostomies in the ED due to severe respiratory distress. And, you know, the interesting thing is at UCI, we do so many procedures that, like, you know, you can do them blindfolded. And all the seniors are great when you're interns about, like, having you, you know, jump in and do central lines, intubate, and things like that. So we're pretty nice to our interns. We'll let you guys get involved very early. And the other thing, too, is the reason why you guys become so comfortable with these emergent procedures is, again, it just speaks to the whole fact that UCI is a high volume, high speed program. We often talk about, we use that as called it red anxiety, which is we kind of don't want the patients to be, you know, sitting for too long. We're usually very quick about picking these patients up. And the thing that you guys will also come to find out is with the graduated responsibility, when you're an R2, there are going to be some days that are just going to be just, I mean, just nasty. Just like you're just going to get ALS run after run after run, and they're just all going to be really sick. And you're going to get used to just doing one procedure to the next, you know, procedural sedation in one, intubating the next one that's coming in, you know, putting a line on the next one, and you're going to just have to move quick and fast. And don't get me wrong, you're going to get help too. Your attending is going to make sure that you're safe and you're not going to be doing things that are going to cause harm and things like that. But because of that speed on top of the multiple sick patients that you'll see, it's going to make you super comfortable. So not only do you have to be comfortable with those procedures, you have to be comfortable doing it fast. So that's why I think our 2 year is like such a golden year at UCI, because it focuses not on speed, but also procedure efficiency. And then, you know, the other thing that we haven't talked about, which I do like to mention, is that in Southern California here, we get a high proportion of Vietnamese patients. And that's a whole other subpopulation of patients at our hospital that are just very sick, and they often don't speak English. So then that's a whole other set of challenges that you're going to have to deal with as well too. And you're going to get comfortable with going to have to get comfortable with treating patients with limited information when they're super sick as well too.
Awesome.
You get great procedural training at kind of the surrounding sites, Long Beach Memorial and Chalk. And, you know, I did so many lines and intubations in the ICU. It was insane. So ton of procedures, not just in the ER, but everywhere.
I was working with one of our third years who actually just recently graduated and is staying on as a fellow. And we were on shift, and he like casually made a comment that there were 2 procedures he hadn't done, of which one was a crike, the other one was a perimortem C-section that he never wants to do. But, and then that shift, we had a patient that we had to crike, couldn't oxygenate, couldn't ventilate, so much emesis in the airway. And I handed him the scalpel from my pocket that I keep there. And he did the crike, and when he finished and we called time of death and everything, he walked out of the room and he looked at me and he was like, that is exactly like every time we've done it in simulation. We did it with pigs, we did it with the homemade task trainer, we did it with the sim. He was like, I knew exactly what I was doing, and was like super excited. So
I agree. I think very prepared for procedures. I work at a extremely procedurally heavy site. I'm intubating almost every shift. I see a lot of penetrating trauma. I work at a very urban, large ER in downtown Long Beach. And one thing I thought kind of coming out of residency is maybe I wasn't comfortable enough, or I didn't have enough chest tubes, which I think is the procedure that's hard to come by, especially at academic sites where the trauma team's involved in that as well. But I was wrong. I think I was very comfortable, and I do a lot of chest tubes, a lot of intubations, a lot of lines. The other thing, speaking to speed as well, is when you go into the community, a lot of times you end up at a smaller hospital, especially at both hospitals I've worked at the last year, you go run codes on the floor and you go intubate on the floor. So in the middle of a busy ER shift, you might be running out of the ER to intubate and back. And I think that UCI did a really good job of just being prepared. Like Ryan was saying earlier, that second year when you're getting all the ALS runs and they need to be intubated quickly and you need to go on to the next patient to do the next procedure, I think that will really prepare you well if you're going to end up working at a procedure heavy site.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren. Guys, I think we've mostly gone through the chat. Do any of the students have any questions we didn't hit, or any other questions they want to like jump in, and you just unmute yourself and let us know if you have any questions for the alumni and the residents?
You know, I saw one question about like the surrounding area about outdoors and things to do in Orange County. There's a ton of stuff to do. Hiking, the beach is 5 minutes away. Disneyland for those of you with kids. Obviously, in the current climate, you know, we don't get to go out as much as we'd like to, but you know, there's a ton to do around here, which makes, you know, the off time even that much more enjoyable. The seasons are slightly warmer and warm, and that's about it. So it's very conducive to getting outside as much as possible. I think a lot of us tend to do.
Yeah, I lived in Belmont Shore. I think Lauren, you did too, right? And I lived right on the canals and bought a paddleboard. I would just come home after my shift, paddle around the canals, and it was awesome. Miss that a lot. I miss all of UCI.
Come back.
Yeah, I agree. And it's something to look into. A lot of residents live in Long Beach. I'm a huge Long Beach person. I live and work in Long Beach, looking to buy a house here, so never going to leave. But it's a very diverse community in Long Beach. There's bars, restaurants, walking distance, the beach. You really get to live and get the best of all worlds as far as weather and access to social activities. So if you think like, I think a lot of people think like, oh, UCI, like I have to live like in the posh part of Orange County or something. And there's so many places to live. And if you haven't been to Orange County, it's very diverse place from city to city. So I think no matter what you're looking for, you'll find it.
Plus, we also get sunshine the entire year too. So there's obviously time to do sports all throughout the year. And for those of you guys that like mountain biking, there's also like Aliso out here. There's also Whiting Ranch out in Irvine. So there's plenty of things to do out here. Like a lot of outdoor stuff, obviously.
For those of you with kids, the school system all throughout Orange County and like the Huntington and Long Beach area is all excellent. Most of them are 10 out of 10 ranked.
Awesome. There was one other question it looks like I missed. Mentoring. How did you guys feel like, were you able to find mentors, even those of you who didn't necessarily come from UCI, find people to connect to help you guide you through the process?
Yeah, I felt like the mentors were very easy to come by. I mean, people like Samer and V who are on this Zoom call were actually residents, but my senior residents. And so obviously starting out as a scared intern, they were, you know, excellent, taking me under their wing. The attendings were great about giving me, you know, lengthening the, I was going to say the leash, lengthening the rope, or giving me permission to do things when I wanted it, and then obviously helping me reel it in when I didn't know what I was doing it when I was early on in intern year and had a really sick patient. And so they were excellent about that balance between all the independence in the world that I wanted and then kind of giving me, guiding me along when I needed it, because obviously you're learning and you need help when you need it. And so, yeah, so I felt like it was really natural. We also had these little families that we started with in residency. And so you kind of are automatically in a little mini family. But as Lauren and other people mentioned, the fact that it's such a small residency program was awesome. I mean, you feel so close to everybody. Sometimes I would have a week straight of shifts with the same 2 other people or 3 other people on in the department, which is actually kind of awesome. It's like, hey, we're going to do this tonight. This is what we're getting for food tomorrow. This is, you know, the music we're bumping tonight. So it was a very kind of collegial feel, which I absolutely loved. And the mentorship was easy.
There's also food every night shift as well too. Attendings are responsible for bringing food for the night shift. So, you know, if that doesn't convince you guys.
Dr. Tui and Dr. Ray will attest that I can text them at any time. It's probably to the point that's annoying for them, but they'll answer all of my dumb questions.
Never annoying.
I think it's universal. I mean, you can text any of the attendings at any time for a question. You can send Burns a picture of a weird rash.
Dr. Burns hasn't gone back to me that often, but.
But no, I really think that the opportunities for mentorship, like Sari was saying, I think that I remember working a week straight with him when I was a first year. And other than getting tired of Millennium, we had an amazing time. But it's really nice because you have like this cross-class mentorship, and then you have the faculty that mentors you. And anywhere you want to go, there's research, simulation, ultrasound is huge. You know, and the opportunities are endless as far as that's concerned. And you'll just be, I think you'll be just great.
To also kind of add to the whole mentorship thing too, I'll bring up a special case with myself, which is, I graduated from residency and then I went off into private practice. And after about a year, I decided I wanted to go back into medical education. And I wanted to give a shout out to Dr. Tui and Dr. Ray for basically, giving me those opportunities to teach. So they allowed me to come back. I was able to help Elisa a lot with the clinical foundations course. Dr. Sangita was also a part of that as well too. She let me help with the EM clerkship. So even after you graduate, whatever it is that you guys might need support in, might need help in, these are like your biggest advocates. Like Elisa had no problems just introducing me back in. She's like, aren't you done? Aren't you supposed to be out doing it in the private world? But, she welcomed me back in and kind of helped me navigate through this world. And, they're just very valuable resources, and they'll never, just because you graduate, it doesn't mean that like you've moved on and on and on. You can always grab their help, text them, whatever it is afterwards. If you have an answer on shift that you might be confused about a patient, or if it's a career thing, like they're always available to, talk to you guys.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the mentorship is so great. I mean, Elisa and Shannon were always there for me too. I think it's cool that you're going to be, pretty close friends with Dr. Fox, who's the chair. For me, when I got my job, I spoke to somebody who was working at the place that I currently work now. He was one of the previous fellows at UCI. I'd never met him in real life. Someone gave me his phone number. He was super helpful, and one of the reasons I ended up getting that job. So totally agree.
Awesome. Alumni, any thoughts on ultrasound training and whether you have enough of that?
Yes.
To excess. We have Fox, and Fox loves ultrasound.
Yeah, I agree. More than enough, very prepared to do what I need to and more. And one of the things I didn't realize, like I thought I would use it, maybe not as much as, but at a lot of community places, you have to call the ultrasound tech in at night. So you can really speed up your dispositions if you're comfortable doing ultrasound yourself. So even things you think like, oh, an ultrasound tech can do that or should do that. Just like everyone's been alluding to, speed is of the essence when you're working in the community. And I think that is something that has really been helpful.
Awesome. Any other questions, students? All right. Well, thank you so much to all our alumni and our residents for taking the time to come on today. It was very nice seeing you guys. I miss you all. Thank you for the time. You guys are free to go. Thank you for answering all of our students' questions. This is great.
Good luck, everyone.
Yeah, good luck, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming.